Between Oliver and Anne, a love blossomed that defied dark secrets. Anne, in secret, learned sign language to please Oliver and his mute mother, but ended up discovering a sinister plan on her wedding day. Facing a dark past and a shocking betrayal, true love persists, determined to triumph over all adversities. Hello, my friends. I am Linda, and this is Linda's Love Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. Anne came from an incredibly wealthy family, while Oliver, the love of her life, came from more humble beginnings. However, money was never a barrier to the love they shared. Oliver was a hard-working and dedicated man who had built a stable life through his dedication and effort. From the moment they met, Anne knew Oliver was the one for her. Their love was deep and sincere, and they built a connection that transcended their social differences. To Anne, true wealth lay in how Oliver made her feel, and she was willing to face any challenge to be with him. On a special day, under a starry seaside sky, Oliver proposed to Anne in an exciting and heartfelt way. With the beach as their witness and emotions running high, he confessed his love and surprised her with a stunning ring. Amid tears of joy, Anne accepted, and they shared a passionate embrace under the stars, sealing their commitment to spend the rest of their lives together. It was a magical and unforgettable moment, the beginning of a new journey filled with love and promises of a bright future. For many years, Oliver believed he was an orphan. He had been left at an orphanage as a baby, with no clues about his biological family. But Anne never saw this as a problem. For her, what mattered was the present and the future they were building together. However, one day everything changed. A woman named Solange appeared in Oliver's life. She had a hearing impairment and was mute, so she communicated with him by writing in a notebook. Solange claimed she found Oliver on the internet after an unrelenting search for ways to find him. She expressed a deep desire to rekindle the relationship with her long-lost son. Oliver was perplexed by the situation, as he did not expect to meet his biological mother. He did not know what to think or how to react to this surprising turn of events. But he was also a mature and understanding man, capable of recognizing that people make mistakes and that his mother had faced her own struggles. Over time, Oliver allowed Solange to enter his life, but this relationship did not start easily. It was a connection that had been prematurely interrupted and could not be rebuilt overnight. They did not have the immediate bond of mother and son, but there was an invisible thread of kinship that united them. As Solange and Oliver began to create a connection, Anne remained by her beloved's side. She admired Oliver's courage and maturity in giving his mother a second chance despite the painful past. She knew that their love was strong enough to face any challenge that arose. With time, Solange began to teach Oliver sign language, determined to overcome communication barriers and build a deeper relationship with him. Oliver was intelligent and dedicated, and quickly learned to communicate with Solange. Watching Oliver's effort, Anne began to realize the importance of this in his life. She decided that she also wanted to learn sign language to connect even more with her fiancé and find a way to communicate with his mother. Thus, Anne began attending sign language classes in secret, determined to surprise Oliver and Solange on their wedding day. She practiced tirelessly, studying every gesture and sign, dedicating herself to each class to achieve her goal. As the months passed, the long-awaited day of Anne and Oliver's wedding approached. The ceremony was being prepared with great care and attention by the organisers and Anne, as she came from an influential family, and the wedding was an important event. However, Anne began to notice a strange change in Oliver in the days leading up to the ceremony. He seemed more distant, his touch was different, and he was acting strangely. His communication with Anne was less affectionate, and he occasionally responded harshly. She attributed this to the stress of the wedding preparations and tried not to worry. The long-awaited day arrived. The setting was stunning, with a luxurious garden full of flowers. Friends and family gathered to witness the union of Anne and Oliver. But Anne felt something strange in the air. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was not right. During the reception of the guests, Anne noticed something that made her freeze. She was close enough to see Oliver's mother, Solange, conversing with him through discreet gestures. "Alison, we are almost completing our plan. This woman has no idea that you are not Oliver." Anne turned pale in a state of shock. She wondered, questioning herself, who Alison was. She thought she was understanding everything wrong, but she kept paying attention, unable to believe what she was seeing. "Son, I'm anxious to get my hands on this fool's money. How has she not noticed the difference between you two?" That conversation hit Anne like a bucket of cold water. She could hardly process what she was seeing. She looked at Oliver, or rather the man she thought was Oliver, and began to notice the small differences that had previously gone unnoticed. His eyes, which used to convey tenderness, now seemed empty and cold. The nose, the lips, everything was different, but with the rush and stress of wedding preparations, she had not noticed these subtle differences. Alison, Oliver's twin brother, conspired along with Solange in a meticulous plan. They saw the announcement of Oliver and Anne's engagement in the newspapers, as the bride's family was very well known. Solange immediately recognized her other son, and greed took hold of her heart. They realized that Oliver was about to marry an incredibly wealthy woman and decided to create a plan in which Alison would impersonate Oliver. After the wedding, the plan was to murder Anne and take over all her fortune, then flee the city. To perfect the plan even more, Solange insisted on teaching Oliver sign language, ensuring that when the brother switch occurred, they could communicate secretly. Solange had lied about wanting to grow closer to her son Oliver. In truth, this desire was just a strategy to meticulously study his life. Her real objective was much darker and more evil. Back in the past, Solange was a deeply disturbed person, suffering from severe emotional disorders, including a psychopathic personality. She acted in a cold and selfish manner, and this cruelty extended even when she gave birth to the twins. At the time, she chose to give away the two boys because she didn't want the inconvenience of taking care of them. However, she discovered that the government provided benefits to poor mothers with children, so she opted to keep only one of the twins, Alison. Alison was a child who fought for his life, constantly suffering at the hands of his mother, Solange. The lack of maternal love turned him into someone as cold and cruel as his own mother. This dysfunctional relationship between mother and son ended up creating an unexpected complicity. Amid the insanity that surrounded them, the two perversely united, sharing a sickly connection for the sake of their evil plans. They were two tormented and greedy beings, and they found comfort in the mutual cruelty they shared. However, they didn't count on the fact that Anne, motivated by love for Oliver, had secretly learned sign language. Anne finally put all the pieces together and understood what was happening. She realized that her fiancé had been switched, and anguish took over her as she questioned where Oliver was. Without thinking about the consequences, Anne did what her intuition told her to do. In the middle of the wedding ceremony, she turned to Alison, the man next to her, and began to communicate through signs with fury and understanding. "You are not Oliver," she fiercely signed. "Who are you?" Shock swept across Alison's face as he realized Anne had discovered the truth. The guests didn't understand the situation as Anne confronted the imposter. Alison tried to cover it up, but Anne began to scream in anger. "Why are you doing this? What did you plan? Where is Oliver?" Oliver's mother, Solange, realized her plan was falling apart before her eyes. She tried to signal Alison, but Anne was determined to uncover the whole truth. Then they began an argument, and Alison's charade started to unravel. The wedding ceremony was interrupted while Anne and Alison argued, and the guests watched in disbelief. It was a chaotic scene with tears, shouting, and confusion. The police were called immediately, and Anne began to reveal to everyone what was happening. The truth came to light. They admitted their true identity and revealed the sinister plan that he and Solange had conceived. Mother and son were taken by the authorities. They would face the consequences of their evil conspiracy. However, Anne was furious and desperate to find Oliver. She had confronted Solange and Alison about her missing fiancé. With eyes full of fury, she stared at Solange and Alison, who were now in police custody. "Where is Oliver?" she asked, her voice trembling with anxiety and fear. They remained silent and she insisted, her voice gaining more intensity. "Speak now. Where is Oliver? What did you do to him?" Anne screamed, tears of worry streaming down her face. Finally, Alison broke the silence, saying that they had kept him in captivity to gather information about Anne, her bank accounts, and her daily routine. They did everything to make the charade as real as possible. Anne's eyes widened in horror upon hearing Alison's confession. She was even more determined to find Oliver and ensure he was safe. The authorities were quickly alerted, and with the forced cooperation of Solange and Alison, proceeded to the location of the captivity. Anne was closely following, her heart pounding with apprehension as she approached the place where her beloved was being held hostage. When she finally arrived, Anne saw Oliver, pale and weak, but still alive. Their eyes met, and Anne approached him with hesitant steps, tears streaming down her face as she said in a soft and comforting voice, "Oliver, you are safe now. Everything will be fine, I am here." Oliver, weakened but relieved to see her, gave a smile. Anne reached out to him and he held her hand tenderly. It was the reunion, the moment when their love would triumph over all adversity. Together they walked away from captivity, determined to leave behind the nightmare that had haunted their lives. And with each other's support, they knew they could overcome anything that lay ahead, because their love was stronger than any challenge they encountered. For Anne, this experience was a painful awakening, but also a life lesson. She felt that true love goes beyond appearances and material wealth. Their wedding took place later, in an intimate ceremony, marked by truth and the genuine love they shared. They learned that true love is unbreakable. The story of Anne, Oliver, and the sinister conspiracy of Solange and Alison became a reminder that love and honesty are the true riches of life, and that no malicious plan can break the bonds that true love creates. If you enjoyed, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with a number from 1 to 5 to let us know how much you liked the story. Also, watch the video that is currently on your screen. See you soon.